Reinventing the Sega Megadrive 2.
Oi, and Sega's Megadrive Mini version 2 is finally with us, and I'm pretty excited about this one, and I'm sure a lot of you guys are as well. But then again, probably not, because we did have the Model 1 a fair few years ago, and that did pack some serious weight and give us what we needed. And we were expecting something a bit different from Sega, and I know a lot of you did send some emails and some tweets to them directly saying, what about the Sega Saturn Mini or even the Dreamcast Mini? But we got the Megadrive Model 2 version. But there were some reasons behind that due to some chip shortages and just the way the market is these days. But personally, this was the very first console that I had back in the day as a kid. And I remember one Christmas, I saw that original Toys R Us advert advertising this Megadrive Model version 2. So back then, my older siblings had the Commodore 64 and the Amiga 1200, and I really wanted a console on my own. So seeing that advert did really spark my interest and ignited that gaming spirit within me. So then Christmas came, and yeah, I didn't get one. So I did a bit of nagging from my parents, I remember doing that, and eventually the next Christmas after, I finally got my own Sega Mega Drive console, which I have by here. So I've still got my original console, so seeing this as a mini form, as my first console I had, I'm pretty excited about this. And this is packing 60 titles, which is the most any mini console has given us so far. Now this mini console is very limited, and you can only purchase this through Amazon. You can't pop into your game store and pick one up like that, and I really would have loved to support my local game store. So in this video we're going to jump into a bit of unboxing, a hands-on review, and also give you some tips to see what else we can get out of this mini console. And I'm sure it won't be too long before this gets hacked and we'll be chucking anything that we want on it. So by hitting that like and subscribe just helps up this channel and just the retro gaming community in general. So now let's get into this. So let's get a box outside of a box, and I immediately saw a problem straight away as I had some damage to it. There wasn't any damage outside of the Amazon box, but inside, as you can see there has been some damage, which is very unfortunate. Anyway, let's get that out of the way and move on. And we do have some side details here. Of course, we have attention, do not swallow or give to children. And at the back we have all the details of what's included. We've got 60 titles altogether, 12 of them are Mega CD games, and they're introducing 7 bonus games that have never been released before, and the rest of them are just titles that have been released, and some of them never been released before in any type of Sega collection. At the base of the box it gives you a QR code and then links you to an online manual that really I would like to see included in this box, but then it also gives you manuals for each system that is released on this mini console. A very detailed description with each title, as well as keeping that old school original design. This is how the original box looked like when it first came out, and then this is the one that I had, the complete 6-in-1. That was kind of like a later revision. So now let's get everything out. We do have a controller, I'm going to put that aside for now. We've got a HDMI cable, and we do have a micro USB, and then we have the console. And the micro is just a standard micro cable with a nice little Sega branding. That is just for power, I believe. The cable itself, the HDMI, is pretty nice standard quality with decent length. And the controller is absolutely stunning. This is my preferred 2D controller for gaming, and it feels absolutely comfortable and smooth in the hands. It's an absolute pleasure to actually be playing this. That D-pad feels very smooth and very comfortable in the hands, and the buttons are just a very professional type of feel, and that mode button is actually clickable, unlike my one that I've been using for many years. And the console itself now, and it's built much like the same quality as the controller, a very professional feel in the hand. But I did notice a very minor little scratch. I don't know if you can see this in the video, so I give it a quick rub and it just seems to be just a little smear. Phew, I thought that was another problem I had with this order. Then we got that flap for the cartridge, which is a really nice touch, just like the original console. But there we do have that clickable power button, which is the wrong type of button we had back in the day. And then we do have the HDMI and the DC in, which is that micro USB. Again, it should be micro C these days, but it will do the job fine. And to my surprise, that little clip does come off. In the original console itself, that would be a way to attach the CD drive as well. And we've got some brilliant details at the back replicating the original console. Here's a closer look now at the controller, and we still have those ridged little indicators that were much like the original controller that I still got from my original Mega Drive here. It feels really quite surreal holding a brand new Mega Drive controller. It's really hitting those nostalgic strings, and here's a comparison to the original Mega Drive that I had back in the day as a kid. And as you can see, there's an example of how the power button should be. So it replicates the original Japanese console, so they just kind of cheaped out and just stuck with that and just gave it a red paint job. And there's no LED light indication at all at the front. And I really like that touch, so you know the actual power is on with these devices. The console itself is basically half the size of the original one. It's a really nice touch, and here's another comparison with the Model 1, Model 2, and then the Mini. So that's the console we had here back in the UK, and over in the States you will see the Sega Genesis. Now that does vary quite differently, as well as design, and as well with this Japanese model. Here's a quick example. Overall, I'm still very impressed in the quality of this build. It does have a professional feel in the hands, and it's one-on-one replication of the original console. They have done a great job. Now let's go ahead and set this up. On initial boot, just taking a couple of seconds, we've got our language selection screen, and we're just simply in. We are greeted with that lovely European game art and style with Yozo Koshiro, the creator of the awesome best music in that generation for games like Shinobi and Streets of Rage, back again creating some awesome menu soundtracks. Menu looking about the same as the Megadrive Mini Model 1, with very simple navigation. By pressing the Y or Z button on the controller, you can then filter the layout of these games. We got recently played, Mega CD games to list first, number of players for the game, list alphabetically to ZA or A to Z. By pressing the B button then brings us a bookshelf style, so we can see the spine art on all these games. Does look pretty nice. Then by pressing X, this will bring up the settings menu. Always love to see a good settings and options menu. Let's see what this brings us here. So we got a please read before playing. So let's quickly touch up on this. Just a health warning and a QR code that brings us an online awesome manual in PDF form for every title as well for this mini console. We got system languages here, which I'll be having fun later on in this video. We've got screen settings, not much at all going on here, simply just a 4:3 or widescreen switcher. No filters on here, which for me is just perfect. A crystal clear and clean output that works best for HDMI. I find filters are just a bit pointless, and when it comes to the people's favorite scan lines, this just kind of creates a visual blur and not really implemented in old school CRTV. Just never really works out. This time around we do have some extra wallpapers to play around with. I simply just prefer to take them off. Something that is very interesting this time around, we can select the audio model of which Mega Drive we want this to sound like. The Model 2 Mega Drive was known for its higher frequency range, giving clarity and punch to the higher range sounds, by adding some slight noise though due to its change of capacitors to the main board. This is the audio sample that they give you just so you can make your own decision. Then we have the mode button settings that bring up a menu whilst you're in gameplay, so you can have a quick pop-up or just hold for a couple of seconds, that type of thing. Then we got a credits that bring you a Mega CD menu with the version 2.0, that awesome dramatic menu where a lot of gamers would experience this menu for the first time of having a CD based media to play the games on. Onto the games onto the system and even more features. I won't be covering all of the titles, just a few highlights that I would like to bring up. Soul Eel, which was Sega's answer to Nintendo's Legend of Zelda, visually a great title with some unique addictive mechanics by attaining animals throughout the game, each one of them giving you its own special technique. And the price of this game has always been very high, so I haven't been able to pick this up and get into this officially. But now thanks to Sega, this is now brought to us at a good affordable price. And it's the same with the Ranger X title. Very interesting mechanics for the time and very great visuals, perhaps the best on the Mega Drive console. When selecting Sonic CD, this will allow you to choose from the US or EU version. Both have noticeable changes, with the EU version being known for a better soundtrack, the NTSC version running at a smoother FPS with a 60Hz output. So that could be the better version. If you'd like to know more about how European games running natively at 50Hz compared to the NTSC USA 60Hz, I created a simple explanation video in which you could check out in the description box below. Now the games listed here on the PAL version of the Megadrive Mini are all NTSC, unless it's those selected games that you can change the alternate PAL versions, and I think this is pretty awesome. Oh, and each title that you play, you can save up to 4 different save slots by bringing up that mode menu. Thunder Force 4, perhaps one of the best shooters on the Mega Drive and perhaps even of all time. You can even select an original or even a high speed version. High speed mode giving you the soundtrack of the original arcade, which a lot of people in the past have mentioned and preferred. And I found also the gameplay to be slightly smoother. That'd just be my experience. I think it's awesome that these alternative versions are available, which brings me to the emulator team behind this, which is M2, which are renowned for bringing ports from systems over to other systems, and are renowned for being the best in this nature of business, which they have worked a lot with Sega throughout the past, most noticeably for the Sega Ages collection for the PlayStation 2. Unfortunately, never got released outside of Japan. They've also done ports of Sega games to the DS and 3DS and more. Another reason why this can be one of the best mini consoles ever released. Some more features as well, which has been brought over from the original Mega Drive Mini model, is selecting the language will then give you an alternative region menu and interface with the game's versions that are included in that zone. Unfortunately, not the games that are featured in that region. For instance, the Japanese version of the Mega Drive Mini model version 2 do have selected different games. Most noticeably is the Lunar series, which personally I'm hugely gutted about, as I'm a big Grandeur fan myself, and the makers are called Game Arts, which are behind this release as well, so I've never managed to experience the Lunar series in the past. Another worthy title is Pot for Mail, a great side-scrolling adventure for the Mega CD. The game is packed with film clips and animation, voice actors and CD quality music. But there's still plenty of content here to play around with. For a quick example of region differences when selecting the language, the Japanese version of Final Fight gives you that removed censored content that was taken out when it was being localized over to the US and EU. And some noticeable changes for Streets of Rage 3 by having some actual story content with animation this time. As well as playability, less difficulty for the Japanese version, which I found the original Streets of Rage 3 a bit of a mess and a bit of a stress, so now we can play this in a lot more enjoyable version. And don't forget, this time around we don't have 1 but 2, but we have 7 brand new titles that have never been released for the Mega Drive, especially for this mini console. These awesome wireless controllers brought to us by Retrobit, teaming up with Sega a fair few years back, work absolutely awesome, and I can't recommend them enough. Simply plug in the USB and you're good to go. The select button this time is working out as the home button. Not to say that the USB controller that it came with is not good enough, but I have to say, this is my personal favourite controller to use for 2D games. It is a real treat. Having a brand new controller built at this quality is just a real pleasure. Built at this very professional standard. So wow, this mini console is packing more weight than I originally anticipated, and there's still things I'm uncovering as I'm going on with this video. But if you guys are new to retro gaming and not even explored any Sega console, this may be the one for you, especially with a roster of games that are available. But it does come with a hefty price tag, which is the most expensive mini console to date, and that is just due to the times that we are living in, so it's a bit of a gamble of Sega themselves bringing this out to us. So that's why they brought it out to Amazon in the first place. So So there are a couple of things I wish they would have amended before coming out, and that was one of the first complaints, especially in the PAL zone, is this red button. It should be exactly the same as that one. But of course they got that Japanese style, so I think they just kind of saved a bit more on budget on producing these. It's a bit of a shame, and of course they got those red lights that I mentioned earlier on in the video. Perhaps some modding may come down later on. And over in Sega Japan web store you can see some exclusive things that I can get for this system, and I did announce that in my original video. It would be pretty awesome if I got my hands on that as well, but already with the high price I couldn't really justify myself for importing that. So guys, I do hope that you've enjoyed this video. I am a bit of a sucker for Sega, anything they bring out, especially when it comes to hardware, as I was a bit of a fanboy back in the day. I just like to grab it, and it won't be too long now before the modern community get behind this and bring in more out of this system. So as always, thanks for watching, and if you'd like to hit that button, if you want to support, click subscribe, leave a comment below, and I catch you lot on the next video.